April 14th, 2020, Tiverton School Committee meeting. I'm here with Dr. Sanchioni and Mr. Robinson, and remotely we have Mrs. Black, Mrs. Pavo, Mrs. Farnworth, Ms. Palish, and our members of our ad council, Mr. Ashley, Ms. Riley, Ms. Delcourt,
Miss Roderick.
Ms. Who?
Ms. Roderick.
Oh, Ms. Roderick. Okay, and Ms. Wardell. And do we have anybody else? I can't see for sure.
Mr. Cabral. Mr. Cabral.
Mr. Cabral. Okay. And Mr. Carvalli. All right. So, okay. So, we do not have a consent agenda, so we're going to go right to new business. Item 3A, the 2019-2020 updated school calendar. Dr. Sanchioni.
So thank you, Mr. Chairperson and members of the school committee. Unfortunately, in the rears, but I need to seek your approval tonight to approve a change to our calendar that is a result of distance learning. I sent you copies of the calendar, so I just want to point out the changes. It begins in March with the week of the 16th, and that week became in essence, our April vacation. So we X out the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th as days off from school. Then in April, on April 3rd, that was a professional development day for our teachers, which on our current calendar was a regular work day. And then the week of April vacation became a work week for us. So again, the dates of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 became work days. 13, 14, 15, 16. This Friday, we have another professional development day. And all these days, all these changes to the dates, what the governor and the commissioner has said to us, they've added in PD days, they've switched over a vacation week from March to April. They all count toward the 180-day calendar. So at this point, our last day of school is still scheduled for June 10th. So I'd like to ask the school committee for two things. A, to approve this calendar as I proposed to you this evening. And then secondly, I believe there's going to be other changes in May, and if the school committee is comfortable with that, just to allow the superintendent to then continue to modify the calendar as dictated by the commissioner and to execute it as directed.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just like to ask that any additional changes also be brought to us for informational purposes at a minimum.
Of course.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that's reasonable. Anything else? Anyone else? I believe.
I guess you alluded to this, Dr. Sanchioni. It does appear perhaps that we'll be getting additional changes. I know some questions I'm getting is this, are we going to have 5-day weeks at any point, or is the commissioner perhaps looking to find ways with these professional development days to, ease the burden on everyone by having 4-day weeks?
I think that's still not defined clearly, although I believe the rest of April will go as planned. So next week should be a 5-day week, and then the last week of April should be a 5-day week. I know there's just some plans for May. I'm hearing there might be some more professional development days, but again, nothing's been etched in stone or articulated to us what it is, just that we should plan on some other changes.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe we are monitoring Facebook, is that correct? All right. Any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt? No? Okay. Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? So it's getting to be a hackneyed phrase, but there's no playbook here, so I'm sure there's changes still in our future, hopefully for the better. All those in favor, I'm going to call the roll. Ms. Palish? Ms. Palish, you there?
Yes.
There we go.
So you're voting yes? You're voting yes, correct?
Yes, to vote.
Yes. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Ms. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so 5-0. Thank you. Item 3B, request to accept something. Wild
Yeah, Wild Plant Society.
Flora Rhode Island grant.
I present this grant to you on behalf of Principal Craven from the middle school. The Rhode Island Wild Plant Society has awarded Tiverton Middle School a $1,000 grant for the purchase of native plants to be installed at Tiverton Middle School. So on behalf of Principal Craven, I ask you to accept this grant with gratitude.
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Just thank you.
Yes, thank Mrs. Craven and everybody who was involved in that grant. I'm gonna call the roll. Ms. Farnworth,
Yes.
Ms. Palish,
Yes.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0. Thank you. Item 4, old business, 4A, the FY21 budget. Dr. Sanquioni?
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we're going to bring up some slides here to sort of take you through our current status with our FY21 budget.
Can't be good news.
There actually is some good news. Relatively.
Give me 1 second, guys.
You going to move it forward? Okay. So you can move right to the second slide.
This is easy, anybody can do this.
You're on the second slide, right?
Okay. Okay, so you have a slide in front of you right now that are numbers that you are very familiar with. As you're aware, that the Budget Committee voted a school district budget of $32,527,800. That's an increase of 2% over our FY20 budget. However, I do want to point out to you a breakdown of that 2% increase. $321,818 are actually state aid. That's 1.1% of the 2% increase. $315,982 is an increase from the town. That's a little, basically 1%. It's 0.99%. So the town has made, or the Budget Committee has recommended, basically a 1% increase in our budget for FY21 from town revenue. And you can see on the slide in red I put down, this is just not sustainable when, again, you're looking at transportation going up 18%, special ed going up, energy going up, and just the basic cost of doing business going up. You can't run a school system with less revenue than the things I'm speaking about that continue to go up. And so with that in mind, with the current recommended budget, I want to share with you now how that impacts our current status. So again, numbers the school committee is familiar with. Based upon asking for a 4% increase, we knew that we were coming in with a deficit of $2.2 million, and I'll speak to round numbers here. However, I had recommended to the school committee to use fund balance and Medicaid, fund balance for $400,000, Medicaid for $375,000, which would bring the deficit down to $1.4 million. And you've seen multiple slides that address how we would, what we would cut to address that $1.4 million cut. So unfortunately, that 4% budget is not what's recommended. The 2% was recommended, which means we have the burden now of an additional $670,088 to add to the deficit, which brings it to $2.1 million. With that being said, though, I do have some good news to share with the committee that's going to offset that just a little bit. We were very conservative in planning for health insurance. We had built in a 3% increase, and we are very fortunate that hearing from the trust, our premiums only went up 0.5%. That's unusual. That doesn't happen every year. It's, for us, the timing couldn't have been better. And so what that resulted in, compared to what we budgeted and what our what our actual cost is, there's a savings there, $275,132. So put that amount save that amount in your mind, and then so that's good news. And I also want to share with you, when we looked at our out-of-district placements for next year, we see a savings of $156,183. Now we all know that money is transient, that could change at any moment. One move in, an additional cost for a new student needing services. But however, looking at what we budgeted to what we're predicting, there's a savings there. So the savings between the health insurance premium and the out-of-district placements totals $431,315. So if I apply that to the new deficit amount, the $670.88, it actually drops that down to $238,773 additional cuts, or brings our deficit to 1.6, almost 1.7 million. So again, we've articulated cuts to 1.4 million. We know that 238 is still out there. Administratively, we've worked and created some list. I think there's a lot of still unknowns in our FY21 budget that we need to continue to monitor before we address that any further. We're monitoring multiple accounts. We're monitoring available or potential stimulus money. We'll keep the school committee appraised. But I would say to you, as I speak to you today on April 14th, we have a deficit of 1.6, almost 1.7 million. We've addressed 1.4 of it, but we'll continue to move forward looking at every account available. So that's the update.
Yes, we're struck into silence. This is not a matter of vote or emotions. I'm gonna open it up to the committee to ask questions. I'm gonna start with Mrs. Black.
No, I think this information is good, and we've always said our budget has to be in much too early, so this is why we get new information all the time, and I'm glad to be monitoring this and keeping our eye on it, so we'll know what we have to decide in the end. Is that what you want to do, Dr. Sanchioni?
I do, and thank you. And another point that I wanted to make, if I could just interject here for a moment, and I know the school committee, you're probably all thinking this, that okay, we have some good news, we had some savings in health insurance and offset, but again, I'd say to you that this is one-time revenue. We're plugging a gap that eventually in FY22 the hole is a little bit deeper. So it's a solution, and it's also a problem in the future.
That's right, yes. Okay. Thank you.
That was warm and fuzzy. All right. Mrs. Pavo?
Yes, I want to say that I appreciate all your hard work and everyone in your central office hard work getting this, budget where it is. I have one question. Due to the coronavirus, could there be, or might there be an adjustment to the budget committee's recommendation for our budget? Is that even legal? It's just something that I've been thinking about due to the fact that the state is now running out of money. Are they going to ask towns and cities to reconsider their budgets? I mean, I know you don't have a definitive answer. It's just something that I've been thinking about. Could we get hit with something worse than we've already gotten? This has never happened before, so this is all new to all of us. But it was just something that even the state aid, I thought, could they reduce our state aid? Just something that I wanted everyone to think about. So it was more of a comment than a question.
I could address a little bit on the state aid platform. We're on conference calls twice a week with superintendents and people from RIDE. And although everyone's predicting state aid is going to be a lot less than what everyone hoped for, what the unknown is the stimulus money that they're going to receive from the federal government. Everyone's hope is the stimulus money will fill that gap. However, locally, I guess locally is unknown. I don't.
Well, the advantage of having a peculiar budget process as we do is that there's no statute or case law that could possibly govern it, as far as I know. So, I think so far that the town council under the leadership of Trish Hilton has done the appropriate things, which is to suspend or, back up the budget a little bit. And, how they'll take that as time goes on, I would not be optimistic that there will be, well, it's hard to know what the middle of June is going to look like, but the problem is that there is a lead time into the referendum that has to allow for public discourse and gathering of signatures and submission of ballots and things like that. When you place things into May, I'll give you a professional opinion, I guess, is that things might be more open by then, but I wouldn't be optimistic that they will be.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Palish?
All set.
Ms. Bonworth?
I think, Mrs. Pavo brought up a lot of good points. One of the concerns I have is that we really haven't gotten, from a public perspective, any kind of a feel from the state as to what they will be doing to help municipalities get through this budget season. And perhaps those conversations are happening in calls and what have you. I know that, watching the town council meetings, certainly that President Hilton and our new town administrator, Mr. Carter, are attending those calls regularly, and they're talking about it. I'm just not getting any kind of feeling for where we will end up. I think we, as a school district, are really reliant upon what happens at the state level and thusly at the town level as well. We're all very well aware of how quickly Tiverton has become reliant on casino revenues, and with it closed right now, we all understand that there will be an impact not only on us but on the town as a whole. So, I don't know, Dr. Sanquioni, are there financial meetings that you've been attending with the governor or with the treasurer? I'm still not understanding what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, so yes, I'm on by 2 meetings a week. The governor actually joined us today. Most of the meetings are with RIDE, and finances is always a topic on our agenda, and it's just too much of an unknown. I mean, as Dr. Lockins articulated, we know that the revenue that state and the town has is going to be reduced. The unknown is the stimulus money, and until someone gets a handle on that, it's hard to really judge impact.
Is there any kind of a timeline that the state is putting out there to have communications prepared for school districts, for municipalities?
They haven't articulated a timeline yet. However, they know that every school district has to have that budget balanced, certainly, as we roll into the late spring. And so they hear that from superintendents repetitively. So I think their recognition of that means that they will address it, as soon as they can with that understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Just watching the news, it seems like there's also going to be other actions on the part of Congress. What those actions are, when they happen, who knows? But certainly that was part of the issue last week, was that they wanted to try and channel more money to local governments and healthcare and some other things. So, and relatively conservative, small c conservative estimates I've seen are that the stimulus really needs to be about 3 times what it is so far. So we shall see, I suppose.
Talk about real money now.
Yeah, 6 trillion. Yeah, we could probably, get by on that in Tiverton. All right.
Dr. Santioni, Dr. Lockett,
Yes, Mrs. Black.
Dr. Santioni, are you able to get in contact with Mr. Carter yet, the new town administrator?
I have not.
Oh, that might be good, because he's new in the
You might
role.
want to reach out to him.
Sure, I will do that tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
He's a good guy.
Hey, he's a good guy.
All right. Anything else on the FY21 budget?
No, I guess we just need to be aware that as the current schedule stands, the school committee has until May 14th to submit an optional budget if it so chooses.
Okay. Mind?
That's, yeah, good new date. Thank you, Diane.
And I guess the silver lining is that we get to talk about the budget for even more weeks than we already do. So this year is really great.
You
Oh, boy.
want to go to Julie, you have questions?
Julie, are there any questions from Facebook? Ms. Delcourt?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there are 2 comments from YouTube. The first comment is from Ms. Chris saying great news about the plant grant. The next one is from Mr. Dakotas stating, Dr. Sanquioni, great news on the new savings from health insurance and placement is terrific. Might any 2020 budget savings from sports, buses, and food service be included to close the remaining gap?
Don't look at me.
Oh, no, I was waiting for you to recognize. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to take that question. Sports, buses, and food service. So in order of ease to food service, there wouldn't be, because food service, we hire Chartwells and they work off of margin there. We sell lunches when they pay their employees, so there's no revenue coming out, no revenue going out there. For buses, we're unsure right now. Certainly, we're not running our buses. We're not paying our bus bill. We hope that that's a savings. However, as you heard me say at our last meeting, it's an unknown if a covenant of receiving stimulus money is to pay your bus contractor. So we're trying to figure that out. We've heard guidance that may be a covenant. So certainly every superintendent now is saying, well, I want to compare my stimulus money to what I would pay my bus contractor, because I'm not going to, I'm making these numbers up, pay $500,000 to my bus contractor and only get $200,000 back in stimulus. So we're all waiting to see how that plays itself out. And then certainly on sports, there's a potential savings there, but certainly I want to discuss that with the school committee. Our coaches are dedicated employees. They did begin some work with our athletes this year, and whether we penalize them or not, I think that's a discussion we need to have.
Yeah. So, if the savings would be in the stipends,
Right.
that seems relatively unjust. So, I don't know. That's certainly something we could discuss now, I suppose, under the budget. I think it'd probably be best, however, to
another agenda.
What I anticipate is, my own view of this is that when we know when the actual town referendum is going to be, and I think we're going to need to, if the council doesn't take action by the end of this month, and it looks like things are not going to be opening up in a time that would allow the referendum or the financial town meeting to occur in June, that we need to, ask them again, okay, we put things on hold for 1 month. What's the, do you need to make a decision to go for another month or 2 weeks or whatever it is? That's one part. I think the second part is really getting to understand what the budget impact is on all the things that have happened, and then we have a meeting at some point, and I don't know how the two are related to each other temporally, in terms of our understanding what the impact is on our budget, what that allows us to do in terms of putting either together a petitioner's budget or the school department budget, submitted by rights of the charter, and or how any of this actually affects what are fairly rigid timetables in the charter about the budget. So if anything, I think we would ultimately need to ask an opinion of the council and probably of their solicitor to sort of see how they're going to approach, a budget which has essentially been suspended under a state of emergency. And it would seem that if the until the state of emergency is lifted, so the governor's made several declarations and the council itself has made declarations, it would seem to me that until those things are lifted, you really can't proceed with what, with the normal function of business. And if you do, under that state of emergency, I would say any elector in this town, any citizen in this town probably has standing to bring suit. That you've proceeded, you've compromised the process beyond, redemption, I guess, if you proceed without things being open. But that's a long answer or a long opinion. But I would guess that ultimately we take up those matters once we have a clearer picture of both the town's budget process, what, if any, modifications are made to the votes already taken, and what the impact is on our fiscal situation.
Well said.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Dr. Sanquioni, and this is a little off topic, but still on the budget. The school department has continued, and I absolutely love this, the fact that we're distributing breakfast and lunch each day. And I think I read something that they were even expanding upon it, and now they're running it out of the middle school, and all students are eligible for these free meals. My question is, how is that impacting our budget, if at all?
No impact at all. It's all covered by the federal government. And thank you for mentioning that, though. I do want to highlight that, yes, we are providing breakfast and lunch every weekday to any family who wishes to avail themselves. And I want to, again, emphasize any family. And we just received approval that we now can include weekend meals. So on Friday, any family who would like to select it, they will receive a breakfast and lunch for Saturday and Sunday. And while I have a moment, want to throw out a couple kudos here. First to Julie Delcourt, our Director of Communications, who monitors this and does the manifest every day. It is so well organized and it allows us to be efficient and effective at all times. And then secondly to Diane Furtado, who's the point person from Chartwell's, who's there preparing the meals and handing them out and does it with a smile on her face, and just been a pleasure to work with. So, we have a lot of great people stepping up to make this a great reality to our families. And again, I just want to repeat that anyone listening, if you're in need of food or it just makes life easier for you to have meals, you can pick them up at Tiverton Middle School, or you can elect to have them delivered to your house.
Thank you, and thank you,
Thank you. Thank
Ms.
you for
Furtado
that.
and Ms.
It's wonderful.
Delcourt.
Thank you.
Was there any drop-off in meal picking up when moving to the middle school?
I'm not sure about pickup. I see the totals, and there was no drop in totals.
All right. Thank you. Anything else from the committee?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 4B, distance learning plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The update for distance learning is on April 6th, we began live lessons where our teachers where we were asynchronous and students were having assignments so they could elect to do them at their leisure. Starting April 6th, we are now asking our students to engage with the teacher at a determined time in an actual live lesson. So we went live lessons last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, April 6th, 7th, and 8th. As you know, we were out Thursday, Friday, and started again this Monday and today. So we've been in for 5 days. And I want to report to you that yesterday I was on a call with about 45 members of our staff, all the elementary instructional leaders, all the curriculum coordinators at the middle school, all the department heads at the high school, members of our teacher advisory team, members of our professional development team, and all the members of Ad Council. And I just need to share with you that overwhelmingly every teacher on that call, every administrator on that call was providing positive feedback. Now, it's certainly still a work in progress, but people are saying to us it's working, we're adjusting, the professional development has been outstanding. We've prepared our teachers to deliver live lessons and to deliver the curriculum online. We continue to monitor our students to a myriad of sources. We have people contacting families who are engaging, who are not engaging. Certainly our students' well-being is at the top of our priority. And I just believe that our staff has really stepped up and done an excellent job, and that testimony yesterday really confirmed that for me.
Wow, great. And again, commendation to our teachers and administrators and our teacher parents.
That's right.
So, any other questions? I'm gonna maybe call the roll. Mrs. Farnworth, any questions?
Oh, you caught me off guard.
I know.
I have two questions, Dr. Sanquioni. What is the grading structure for this distance learning timeframe?
Great question.
Is it typical? Is it pass fail? I'm just not sure.
Sure, and we will relate that to the school committee and to all community members and our students. That was a topic of our conversation with all those people that I just mentioned. Term 3 just concluded, and Term 3 will be regular grading, so parents can expect to receive the report card just as they would in quarters 1 and 2. For quarter 4, we are evaluating multiple options. All those staff members I referenced and our principals are deciding what is in the best interest of our students and staff. Pass fail is an option, but anything we move to has a pro-con list, and we're trying to evaluate that. At the high school, it's a little more concerning. We've received notice from the NCAA that a pass-fail grading system, they view a pass as a D, and a D makes you ineligible, so we certainly don't want to harm students anyway. But what we do know is that we don't want to penalize students for distance learning. And we know that students have different support at home, different access to, technology, to, a learning coach who can support them at home. So those are the conversations we're having. It's on our agenda tomorrow for another administrative meeting, and I would suspect in another week or 10 days we will articulate specifically what grading is at the elementary, at the middle, and at the high school. And you may see a different way of doing it at all 3 levels. So not decided yet, I guess, ultimately.
Thank you. And your reference to the NCAA, I would have to think that perhaps they will adjust their stand as time moves on as well. The tagline we're always hearing is we're all in this together, and that includes the NCAA too. More to come, I'm sure. The other question I have is, do you now have 100% student engagement in distance learning?
There's a lot of ways to answer that question. We've had 100% of our students engage in distance learning, right? And we believe right now that 100% of our homes have access to the internet, either through them acquiring it through Cox's new program or us issuing them a hotspot. And so again, as anyone who may be listening, if you need the internet, we want to provide it to you at no cost at all. But our teachers, because we have a daily check-in, we've seen every student in the Tiverton Public Schools now check in at least as part of our distance learning plan when it started. Does every student check in every day? No, but I would relate that to like a normal school day. We have kids who are absent, who just don't participate, and we're seeing that with distance learning too. But the good thing about our program is that our SEL staff receives that data on a daily basis and is reaching out to families and students to ascertain why that is and to help bring some solutions to get them back engaged.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you had at least had contact with each and every student.
And Dr. Larkin?
Yes, Mrs. Black.
Dr. Sanquioni, I noticed that when you get any correspondence that you or someone else answers it immediately, and I appreciate that for the people that do have concerns. So thank you for that, and your staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pavo, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Palish? And Mrs. Black, any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Senior activities as a part of that?
It is. It's part of distance learning, and as we know, we are currently out of school until May 4th. However, every indication is telling us that it's going to be longer than that, and it may be the month of May or it may be the entire school year, which has caused our high school administration to engage in conversations. I've had these with Principal Ashley. I know he's on the call today to speak to this about what do we do about our prom, what do we do about graduation, two key events to any senior's conclusion of 12 years in our district. We want to celebrate the hard work and the things that they've done to get to this culminative event. And so we continue to think about what options there are to have these things in some way. So I'm going to ask Principal Ashley to jump in right now and talk a little bit about the conversations he's had with his staff and some of his ideas.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So as Dr. Sanquiano spoke to, right now, technically out through early May, with that degree of uncertainty for extending beyond that, but we're absolutely committed to the graduation. That ceremony is a key milestone for our seniors, and prom, as much as we can. And so we're holding off on any final decisions in terms of the plans for those. But for prom, we've already been in contact with the host venue site and asked for them on dates later in June, depending on what the governor's office says. And so we've gotten the approval from the host site on that. And with graduation too, again, our goal is in person, like we do every year, out on the field in a great venue at 70 degrees. But we're preparing for other options if we have to. Hoping for the best there with that.
It's just still an unknown
Yeah.
until we get.
Yeah, and going back to school doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be
Yes.
we'll be allowed to have large events that will include various age groups. So we shall see, as with many other things. Any questions from the committee? Mrs. Palish? Pay attention. Deb, any questions?
No questions. I just had a comment. Because this is so different for us and we've never done this before, if people have ideas of things that we can do for these seniors to make anything easier, anything more special, I don't even know what it would be, but maybe they've read something somewhere else. Please share those ideas with Principal Ashley and Superintendent Sanquioni, because we know this is certainly not the senior year they envisioned. And if there's something, we don't have all the answers. If there's something we're not thinking of, something that someone saw somewhere else, please pass those things along, because anything we can do to make this more special for them, we certainly want to.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Sanquioni.
And I want to thank Ms. Palace for making that comment. Matter of fact, a parent reached out to both Principal Ashley and myself today with a neat idea to somehow recognize seniors with lawn signs. And so I know Mr. Ashley made contact back. We're looking at that. So yeah, anyone in the community that may have a brilliant idea on how to recognize and celebrate these events, we certainly want to hear from you.
Okay. Thanks. Mrs. Black?
Yes, I asked Dr. Lock to put this on the agenda because I know most of all we have to realize this is a very serious time and people are dying, so we know that, and it's tragic, but there's so much uncertainty, and I'd like to, like I said, with the yard signs or maybe a billboard, I know there's one coming into Tiverton that used to have the pot sign on it, so we could put some nice graduation thing up there. Anything we can do to recognize and try to have the ceremony. It doesn't have to be on the date, of course, that we said. Maybe it can be later, but as much as we can, because there's no reruns in life. Let's try to have at least that official ceremony, caps and gowns. Everything else, we don't know what's going to happen, but I think we should try to think about doing that. And it has to, certainly, as I said, doesn't have to be on the date. It's on the calendar, even if it's in the summer, whenever. But we have to remember that these students, all of them, are going through a lot, and to miss out on that only happens once. So I know whenever a student graduates later because they couldn't graduate on time, the principal and I have a ceremony in the office and invite people, and it's meaningful to those parents that come. So I know how much it means to everybody. So I just like to keep our mind with that, and like Deb said, listen around the country what other people are doing to make it really, really special for them, because they've worked so hard. Thank you.
Ms. Pavo?
Yes, I have, Mr. Ashley, I have a question about senior project. I know that's not an activity, but what are we doing about senior project? Because there is interaction between mentors and students during the process of senior project, and we have to respect social distancing, but a lot of people are not in contact with one another right now. So are we doing anything? Do the students have to complete their senior projects as they normally do? Are we making some kind of an adjustment?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Pavo, for bringing that question up. So you're absolutely right about the students having had interactions with their mentors, and before distance learning, most of our seniors were pretty far along with their senior project. And so they had done a lot of work. They were passionate about it, and they wanted to showcase that. And so what we've done is we have made adjustments to senior project with the spirit of saying that we want to acknowledge all of our seniors' hard work for that, while obviously respecting the new standards for distance learning. And so we've dropped some requirements. So we're still encouraging, virtual mentor contact, but we're not requiring students to have mentor contact. Same thing with a product. We usually have them do a physical product, or it's a show or some kind of gathering. We're not mandating that any longer. And then we're actually in the midst of planning virtual presentations for the students that would be judged by the faculty, actually.
Good, that's very nice. Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Barnworth?
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Ashley, too. I think that virtual presentation component is the presentation's a big part of these projects. Not only does it allow the students to show off their work, but it actually allows for them to be judged on the quality of their presentation. So I'm glad to hear you doing that. The other comment I would have to make is in regard to the senior activities. Can I assume that you are working with the students themselves? Have they come up with ideas? Are you collaborating with them, meeting with them?
Yeah, so great question also. So yes, meeting regularly with the junior and the senior student leadership and the advisors. We have an ongoing Zoom meeting, actually, and to the students' credit, actually, they've come up with some really creative ideas around keeping the spirit going. We still have Tiger spirit, even though we're in distance learning. And so, for example, we had originally a spirit week planned, where there's different events each day. And so we're taking that idea and turning it online. And so we're starting with plans for next week to have a different theme each day, where kids will take a picture, depending on the theme or color. We're doing a pet day, and posting it online just to showcase the spirit and keep the message positive. And we want to continue that actually every week, some kind of positive engagement online throughout the duration of distance learning, because again, to the students' credit, and we backed it 100%, we want to do everything we can to keep morale high, obviously recognizing the challenge that this is not the senior spring that we would have typically had, but we can still showcase that they're part of the Tiverton High School community, and we're going to make this as best as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Delcourt, any questions from the public?
Yes, sir. So we have a specific question or a comment on Facebook from Ms. Pena Vest, which would be, please ask parents their opinion about the new live classes as well, not just teachers and administrators. This would be as easy as a quick survey sent to parents, just a thought. And then we also have a comment, actually a question from Ms. Chris on YouTube that is asking, yard signs, is this a profit-making venue for an individual, or can families contract with a business for a special price so more families who have seniors can participate in yard signs. She also points out it would be great if every single senior was able to have a sign.
So,
I direct that to Superintendent Sanquioni.
great, thank you. So we just received this message today, and I just used it as an example of the community giving us ideas. We have not actually said we're going to do the yard signs, but I certainly can assure you that if it is a direction we go in, every student would be included.
What was the first question? Could you repeat the first question or first comment? I'm not sure I understood everything.
Sure. The first comment is again from Ms. Pena Vest. She recommends that the parents have their opinion sought after about the new live classes as well. She says not just the teachers and administrators. This would be as easy as a quick survey sent to parents, just a thought.
I see. Okay.
I don't have, no, we can do that. I just, we put live lessons in place because we know they're a hallmark of successful distance learning. And we know that at times that could cause some stress or anxiety in the home if you've got students competing for the same device at the same time or things of that nature, which is why every lesson is recorded, which still gives every family the flexibility to access it asynchronously. And we understand that's not as good as being on synchronously, but we're trying to make this as flexible as possible. So, surveying parents is fine. Continuing with live lessons, though, is definitely going to be a direction of the Tiverton Public Schools.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's always good to both hear from parents and also to solicit their opinions, as well as everybody else, because we are certainly all learning as we go along. Anything else, Ms. Stelcourt, or from the committee?
No, just a quick comment of Ms. Chris thanking you for your input.
Okay, thank you. So I'll finish up by saying if anybody hasn't gotten on the internet to look at some of the parody songs, you should do that very soon. I'll recommend the Bohemian Rhapsody one is the best. Although the best line was from the Adam Sandler song, who sang at one point, "I'm teaching math to my kids, and that can't be good for America." So, just somehow that resonated with me. So I'm gonna ask for a motion to go into executive session at this point under Rhode Island General Law 42465A1. Job performance, character, physical or mental health teacher, under the same statute except for section 2, litigation, legal advice, personnel, and legal advice, litigation, collective bargaining, NEA, Tiverton.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call. Ms. Farnworth?
Yes.
Ms. Palish?
Yes.
Ms. Pavo?
Yes.
Ms. Black?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So we are in executive session.
We just need 2 minutes.
Yep. So we're going to close down our...
For teacher personnel action.
I'm reporting back on executive session. Vote was taken to proceed with teacher termination, 5-0. A motion was made to seal the minutes, 5-0. A motion was made to adjourn, 5-0.